itakaa vizuri kwa hii kipindi. Kwa hivyo sisi tuungane pamoja, tusiwe watu wa kuonyeshana kidole, ni wewe, ni huyu, mpaka tusemesane. Na nikimalizia, Bwana Spika, nataka nikumbushe serikali ya Kenya Kwanza na wale wengine wote na Kenya mzima na department zile zingine kutimulia watu ama cabinet secretary MPS haitasaidia. Ile kitu ya kwanza ni kuangalia ule mtu afanye kazi aweze kutimulia. Unaweza kuacha watu wawili na kama kazi haiangaliwe hakuna kitu watafanya. Kwa hiyo Bwana Spika, ningeomba nikimaliza ambaye kuseme sana, nataka nikimaliza, nataka nikumbushe tena watu wa Kenya mambo ya kusema Isaia. Watoto wa Misri, wa Israeli, wakati walitoka Misri, walifika pahali wakaanza kupigana kuletania sinda, ni wewe, mpaka wakati kafika na ndio Isaia akasema njooni nyote tusemesane. Sasa ni wakati wa Kenya, makanisa, seneti na ngurubu zote na JNC tuungane pamoja kama watu wa Kenya tuweze kusaidia Mkenya, kwa sababu nataka kuambia JNC, Kenya ni ya mtu mzee, ni ya mdogo, ni ya kila kitu. Na ninataka kuhakikishia JNC, hii Kenya ni yenyu. Ukiangalia sisi ni miaka ile iko, sisi tunaondoka. Kwa hiyo nataka mtushikilie na nyinyi mfanye kazi vizuri ndio muweze kulete matunda na kutengeneza economy ya counties na pia economy ya Kenya mzima. Pia hata mambo ya agriculture. Kule kuna agriculture, kuna agriculture, kuna trendi, kuna cooperative. Pia hizo department, hiyo cabinet secretary wafanye pamoja. Ndio pia county government ipatiane every county power ya manji, ndio wapate ile kazi ikipeano kule, kusimekane watu wakubwa wase wasiende kwa ile na kutafuta masamba. Kila njenzi wale wako na mavikira ya kulima na pia waweze kulima, ndio hiyo masao yao iweze cooperative iwapatie pesa walime, na pia trendi itapute soko huko inji ya ngambo. Kwa hiyo Bwana Spika, mimi naunga mkono. Nikimalizia nataka kuhakikishia JNC kilio yenu Mungu ameisikia na serikali na Kenya hiyo kilio imesikika. Nikimalizia Bwana Spika, hiyo kitu yote ikifanyika utakuta economy ya kaunti zetu 47 hatutapigana na economy ya Kenya itaendelea vizuri na Kenya itasimama. Kwa hivyo Bwana Spika, nikiwa senator wa Embu County naunga hiyo mazungumzo tuweze kutembea pamoja. Ni mimi senator wa Embu County ambaye ni Daktari Alexander Munyi Mundigi ambaye ni deputy party leader wa Democratic in Kenya Kwanza. Asante Bwana Spika, naunga mkono. Asante. Professor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I wish to join my colleagues in supporting this particular motion. I believe it is long overdue, but I think we are there. Mr. Speaker, I must take this opportunity to give my condolences to the families that have lost their dear ones. We have lost great leaders. Some people say youths are future leaders. They are not future leaders. From what happened last week, they are leaders of today, Mr. Speaker. I must accept that. Secondly, I wish to wish well those who are in hospitals to have quick recoveries. Mr. Speaker, I remember yesterday when we had a brief meeting, I asked the meeting, what is the end result of this particular debate? And I remember, having been around for a while, we will normally debate day in, day out, but the result is zero. And I hope this one is not going to be zero. Mr. Speaker, what we have seen, it must have taught us a lesson that we need to learn from the happenings in this country, both national and the county level. Mr. Speaker, I wish to congratulate the young boys and girls who have actually volunteered, who have sacrificed their lives, their time to put things right. They are actually great leaders. Mr. Speaker, according to me. Mr. Speaker, I remember there were several challenges on that particular Tuesday where people were running for their lives. I have watched a very serious young girl on a YouTube last evening where she was actually confronting a police officer and telling him, do whatever I want to do, but I'm here for the right of Kenyans, I'm here for my right. She must be a hero, and I hope her name is called Shakila. She's a great leader and she's a hero in this country. Congratulations, Shakila, though I don't know you. And the rest of young boys and girls who have volunteered. Secondly, Mr. Speaker, I must congratulate the president of this country for having listened to these young boys and girls. If he actually didn't return back that particular bill to the National Assembly, we would have been in a different situation in this country today. I think, Mr. Speaker, we need to look at our neighbors. South Sudan, North Sudan, Somalia. Those are the countries with very few tribes. But in Kenya, we have 45 tribes. If for any reason that we turn against each other, I'm telling you, we'll finish each other within a week or even less. But may God forbid that, Mr. Speaker, and that is the reason why we should actually congratulate and be happy for whatever has happened. And the head of state actually agreed to listen to us and also to the youths of this country, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, from the happenings, I believe we must do a lot of consultation whenever we make a decision. Because if we don't consult each other, if we make decisions unilaterally without consulting, then we'll see what happens from what happened on Tuesday and the years to come, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, those youths were actually on the road as a result of frustration, depression. They are our kids, Mr. Speaker. Most of them, especially in our counties, you will see they are into drugs. Mr. Speaker, in Kenya today, if you look for a job, employment, there are kids with even PhD. There are kids with masters. There are kids with actually the first degrees. Mr. Speaker, unless you pay certain token, you will not get a job in government offices. And I think those ministries need to be overhauled. We need to tell each other the truth, Mr. Speaker. There is no merit in actually one getting a job. That's why those kids were actually frustrated and annoyed with us leaders. Mr. Speaker, you look at the budget of this country. When you look at the budget, it is brought to the House, both National Assembly and the Senate. We pass those budgets. The 85 that is left at the national level, Mr. Speaker, you don't know how it is spent. You don't know how it is implemented, even the projects that are there. You are either politically correct or not, Mr. Speaker. You are either influential or not. You either have a population or not, Mr. Speaker. Everything is actually looking at the future of politics of this country. Where are we heading as a country? Because if I don't support the government of the day, automatically I will not get development. That is the position in this country, and we need to correct that, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, when the current government leadership or executive came into office, I visited several offices to find out the kind of projects that are going to be implemented in my county. I went to a certain office and I was told the project in this area is complete 100%. And I asked the PS or the cabinet secretary, are you serious when you are saying this project is 100% complete? And I was there the other day. Mr. Speaker, you can imagine a project that is done 40%. What is in a government office is 100% complete. In certain instances, those projects are not even there. So what I'm saying here, Mr. Speaker, is that we need to look at the way we are carrying out ourselves and actually even sharing the national cake. Those who are at the national level, you need to go down and see what is happening or how those projects are being implemented. And again, how those projects are actually benefiting the areas and the communities that are intended to be supported. Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, let me come back to this house. I've been around for a while. I was in the first Senate. I was in the second Senate. But the current happenings, we must call a spade a spade. You can actually bring a statement to this house. It takes 6 months for a committee to look at it and give you feedback. Mr. Speaker, you can imagine I'm being confronted even in certain committees. Is it really relevant for you to bring this statement to this committee? When the Speaker on the floor of the House has referred a statement to a committee, I'm being challenged in the committee. A member of committee or secretariat calls my county and tells the governor, what is wrong with your senator? She's always bringing statement to our committee. Mr. Speaker, I think when we correct others, we should also correct ourselves. We should correct ourselves. There is a lot of problem within our committees. Things are not done properly. I can enumerate committees where I have challenges in my counties. Up to now, Mr. Speaker, nobody has responded to those statements. And I don't want to embarrass the committees that I have statements before them. Sometimes you can imagine you are just send the response and nobody bothers how to deal with that particular statement. I wish we could go back to where we started in the first Senate, where responses for those statements are brought back to the House so that everybody can listen and understand those statements and even ask further questions, Mr. Speaker. So, Mr. Speaker, the reason why I am telling this House or ourselves, when we actually point fingers to other individuals or other institutions, we also have challenges here. We must actually correct ourselves. Mr. Speaker, going back to the counties, I have sat in the committees of the House from 2013 up to date. Mr. Speaker, when we are talking of national government, we should also talk about county government. Mr. Speaker, the budget we fight for here, Mr. Speaker, when it goes to the county, nobody wants you to talk about it. Nobody says senators have fought for this budget, so we should listen to them. Nobody understands the role of senators is not to carry out development, but to carry out oversight, Mr. Speaker. And that has to be made clear. Because you will see that you are bashed by governors also and members of parliament. I have brought this road. I have done ABCD. What has Senator done for you? Those are the issues we need to ask ourselves. How are we going to be felt as senators? I've seen people from yesterday's debate bashing Senate. Senate should be scrapped. Those debates we have had. But I think we must make a reality why we exist as a Senate, Mr. Speaker. I sit in Public Accounts Committee where, Mr. Speaker, you will see that all the counties have gone above the 13% ceiling of employment. Every governor comes in, he will recruit 200, 300, 1,000, and nobody is questioning, Mr. Speaker. Development is not taking place, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, for example, my county, 50% of the budget in the last financial year, this actually finished financial year, has not been spent. When you have pending bills in the counties, people are suffering. They have supplied counties. You go to the controller of budget, requisition is made, Mr. Speaker. That requisition comes with the name of Fatuma Dulo. But when it goes to CRF, is another person who is paid. Maybe Senator Kajwang is the one paid. These things are happening, Mr. Speaker. Do you want to challenge me?
Proceed, Senator. Don't be
Mr. Speaker, it's happening in the eyes of COB. It is happening in the eyes of Treasury. Nobody is bothering. Those who have supplied, Mr. Speaker, are suffering. Those who are owed pending bills, they are not paid. I remember 2019, there was a decision made by this House to stop actually budget going to the counties until they clear pending bills. And they all rushed, Mr. Speaker, to clear those pending bills. And I think that decision has to be made also, maybe next financial year, so that Kenyans can get their money and also service is delivered to Kenyans. Mr. Speaker, if I may look at my county, yesterday I moved a motion to stop budget going to Isiolo County. I was not a fool when I actually drafted that motion. We have instances, I remember 2019 or even 2015, I think Senator Khalwale also tried one time. When the governors refused to appear before Public Accounts Committee.
Majority Leader, you may consult, but keep it on the down low. Proceed, Senator.
Mr. Speaker, we push governments to allocate budget to counties. And when you summon a governor to the committee of the Senate, he will tell you, I am not answerable to anybody. I am not actually obligated to respond to anybody. It's in public domain. We went as a Senate committee to Isiolo. The end result is we all were abused in public. All of us. And actually some of the senators who came there, why can't you oversight Homa Bay? I remember Senator Kajwang being told, instead of coming to Isiolo. We have a right as senators to go to any county. I thought I have 20 minutes, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I brought a statement on the floor of the House regarding a morgue. Up to date, that morgue is not operational. The governor refused to appear before Health Committee. Mr. Speaker, after the committee has issued a warrant of arrest to order to DPP and IG, the governor rushes to get a court order to stop committee of the House operating. And we need a ruling from you, Mr. Speaker. I have never seen where a governor can stop decision of particular committee. We had a P committee where actually Senator Olekina was abused in a committee. And banging of the tables happened. What kind of respect do we have? There are no structures in those counties, Mr. Speaker. I'm not talking about Isiolo only. If you look at the budget forums are not working. Supplementaries are carried. Members of public don't know. Mr. Speaker, I think we need to have a serious discussion as far as the counties are concerned. Mr. Speaker, if I am allowed, of course the law allows 50% to stoppage. We must actually have a lesson learned by certain counties that are disrespecting this particular House. There must be consequences. Because if we don't have consequences, like some guys in Isiolo Senate, where will Senate take us? We will come, listen to them, We take photos with them, see them outside the tent. That is the end of it. That is the story that is there in the counties, Mr. Speaker. We must be held accountable, Mr. Speaker. For example, Mr. Speaker, a county that is getting a budget of 5.2 million, it's recruiting 32 chief officers. 32 chief officers. And the governor says, nobody will ask me. He has over 20 advisors when the law allows only 3. 20. Every department has advisor. So what is the use of having laws in this country? It has no meaning. And I can see the kind of frustrations that these young boys and girls are going through. The demonstration we had here was similarly in my county, Isiolo. We lost some young boys and girls. Poleni sana. Mr. Speaker, after the demonstration, some youths are hired to confront the peaceful demonstration that were done by Gen Zs. Can you imagine a governor rushing and tweeting and saying, Fatuma wanted to ban the county office? Why would I ban county office? Can I assist him to ban evidence where he has misappropriated funding? Why would I? Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, we have a lot of challenges. If this debate that we are carrying out today will solve the kind of problems we have, both nationally and at the county level, Mr. Speaker, then we have something to smile. And I will advise Gen Zs, yes, you have made noise. Yes, you have been heard. Put your structures in place to hold everybody accountable. And I must congratulate you today, we didn't have demonstration. Congratulations. But come together and make sure that whatever you have actually listed down have been implemented. Mr. Speaker, we have a lot of challenges. I don't see why we should even allocate money to counties. Our mothers today are carrying drums of water on their backs when we have budgets, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Dulo, 2 minutes to wind up your thoughts.
Mr. Speaker, most of the kids in my county, they're actually learning under trees. What happens when it rains? They don't go to school. Mr. Speaker, hospitals, there are no dispensaries that are operating, no drugs, no ambulances. Our mothers are dying on those rough roads trying to get service delivery as far as health is concerned, Mr. Speaker. So let me urge this House, whatever discussions we're having here, we must have a solution to it. And as far as actually sending the budget to Isiolo County, until the governor of Isiolo accepts and respects the role of the Senate, and I think any other county, we should actually not release more than 50% of the budget for the benefit of staff going to those counties, because we deserve that respect as a Senate, and also hold those governors accountable, because what we are sending them is not actually realized. Imagine, Governor, Treasury of Isiolo is operated in Nairobi. Procurement is operated in Nairobi. And nobody is bothered. And people here in this House, they are saying, why is Senator Dulo so annoyed with Isiolo County? I have a reason. I feel the pain of my people. That's why they have elected me to this House. Mr. Speaker, let's put our acts together. This country we all belong to. There are so many people who are yearning to come and settle in Kenya. We don't have another country. Can we sit down, do proper consultation, and ensure that our country has moved forward? I thank you.
Senator Mofire.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Let me start by thanking the brains behind this motion, the leadership of this House from both divide, including Senator Wambua, who really came up with this idea of having to address the affairs of this nation after having some few instances in the last 2 weeks or so. Honorable Speaker, before I give my speech, I would want to dedicate my soul and spirit to the young ones who lost their lives, to the parents, to the relatives, and the entire family, because it is the record that this country lost lives in the last few years, in a few days, out of the protest that were brought by our sons and daughters. Honorable Speaker, I want to convey my gratitude and greetings from Tharaka-Nithi to the majority leader of this House, to Senior Kalwale, to Sifuna, because I've received several messages, even to you, Honorable Speaker, because I've received several messages and calls from people from Tharaka-Nithi, congratulating each one of you for fighting it very necessary to make sure that we have a counter address, because the sentence now is a slap for this country. We have been celebrated across the board, and people are saying this is the Senate that we really voted for as per the Constitution. We have really redeemed ourselves, and we have restored our sanity as a House. Honorable Speaker, I belong to Kenya Kwanza government, having been elected Senator for Tharaka-Nithi by majority votes in the last elections. Honorable Speaker, I'm happy that this House has disregarded party affiliations and decided to confront issues without having to say you come from Kenya Kwanza or Azimio for that matter. And that is patriotism, Honorable Speaker. That is being patriotic, because as quite a number of speakers have just said, we do not have any other country other than Kenya. Honorable Speaker, do you protect me from the leadership? I can see Medhu is making a lot of noise, maybe from some quarters, Honorable Speaker.
Order, Senator for Laikipia. Resume your seat. Proceed, Senator Mofire.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker, for that. You know, Honorable Speaker, this government came into being through some very common phrases. I remember we went around the country, and our common phrase was bottom up, the hustlers. That's captioned the likes of Mama Mbogas, the border borders, the Mokokoteni, the wheelbarrow pushers, and any other common person for that matter. And we rode on that spirit, and we were voted enormously for those phrases. Honorable Speaker, I remember the vows and the promises that we made. Within 100 days, we shall have done this and that. Within 3 months, we shall have done this and that. But I'm very sure somebody who is watching me from Tharaka-Nithi, from Ramu, from any part of this country would want to agree with me. We have not been very faithful to those vows and promises. We might have been distracted maybe by some economic issues or policies, but that is not, and will not be the expectations of the nation. It could be too early, but of course the promises were in the next 100 days, in the next 3 months, we shall have this and that and that. Honorable Speaker, we made some confessions. We made some promises that this government will be comprised of Mama Mbogas, the young people, border, and it was a common phrase, not exactly for the president, for anybody. That was the talk of Kenya Kwanza. Honorable Speaker, what we have seen in return is total contrast to what the provinces want. The boys that are routing today in the streets, in the campaigns, we expected them to be in possessions. But in the return of our Speaker, we have witnessed and we have seen some recycled corrupt faces in this government. Those people with indented history of corruption, some serious moral practices here and there, those are the people who are running the government. We have seen people carrying sacks of money in functions in Harambes, out of cronyism, out of tribalism. And it's stand, Honorable Speaker, I happen to serve in the Committee of National Cohesion and Equal Opportunities, where my senior Senator Chuta chairs. It is very saddening, Honorable Speaker, to find that in this country, 2 tribes carry 3/4 of the entire public service or the workforce at the expense of other tribes. So one would want to ask, why are other Kenyans taking their kids to school? So those are some of the lamentations, Honorable Speaker, that we are seeing in the streets. And I'm happy that the President was able to listen to some of those grievances. And it is important also, Honorable Speaker, to note that even the budget is skewed to favor some cronies, some royalists. You find some members of parliament allocating themselves billions of money in their constituencies for development. This one, Honorable Speaker, has segregated, has made some parts of this country look like they are not in this country. I come from Tharaka County, Honorable Speaker, and there are constituencies for that matter. And I know exactly what I'm saying. So, Honorable Speaker, Kenyans put this government in power with great expectations and remained so that their lives maybe could remain better. But of course, the intentions could have been very good. But of course, Honorable Speaker, up to now, those of us who frequent their localities every weekend, you bear me witness that we face a lot of problems with our mothers, with our fathers, with our common rural folk, seeking for school fees, seeking for medication, seeking for any sort of assistance from those who are elected. It is not something, Honorable Speaker, that we can manage. This one displays some serious levels of inequality in the society. This is not Kenyans really expected once when they went into elections. Honorable Speaker, we chose, after forming the government, we chose to reward the friends and loyalties instead of competence in some cases, Honorable Speaker. That is why here we have had some confessions from some prosecutors of this motion that there is a committee in agriculture. We sat down, prosecuted our case, and up to now, some of those non-corporates are still in office. This one, Honorable Speaker, is seriously eroding the confidence of the Kenyan people. Because, Honorable Speaker, there is no way Kenyans would want to be shuffled by a person who is dented and corrupt for that matter. And it's not only agriculture, Honorable Speaker. We have so many seen cases in this country where we do not have a serious resolve maybe to fight corruption. We have created 2 levels of living in this country. We have the extreme people who have a lot of money. The haves, they don't even know where to take that money. They have bought so many things. They have bought choppers. They are going around the country with so much money. I would want even to recite what Honorable Garwari said. They are Sky team. They are out of us. Somebody would take a chopper from Nairobi to Thika. A 20 minutes drive. Because money is there. And I'm very sure this money belongs to Kenyans, whom we saw the other day demonstrating in the streets. So this hunger, Honorable Speaker, has been building in this country for the last maybe so many years. But I'm happy, Honorable Speaker, that our young people woke up from both levels of psychopathy, the hypocrisy, and the fallacy. that we are supposed to do exactly what people sent us here to do. Honorable Speaker, the government overlooked quite a number of cancerous aspects in our nation, such as corruption, tribalism, and impunity. Honorable Speaker, the other day, not even the other day, today, Honorable Speaker, in Kenya today, you can do anything as far as you are politically correct. You can walk and do anything that is supposed to be done, including crime. You can kill. We have seen even some of us shooting people dead and then go scot-free because you belong to this section of the government. So I think, Honorable Speaker, it is the high time we restore and install and make sure that we are equal before the law. And some of those things, Honorable Speaker, is why we're having our youth go to the streets and make some serious demonstrations. Honorable Speaker, even the budget, as Jajab said, is made in favor of some people who are connected to the system. Honorable Speaker, we have every right to thank our young generations for waking us from the deep shame of hypocrisy, psychopathy, and fallacy. Honorable Speaker, I'm happy that this government found it necessary, maybe to halt the signing of the finance bill, which in the Kenyan understanding was not favorite to the voters. So, Honorable Speaker, I want to end up by saying that Senate, as it is claimed, is glory, and I'm very sure this is the trend we are supposed to embrace as a House. Maybe in the future, this is the hope of this country, and the Kenyans are looking upon us to give solutions and directions. Honorable Speaker, I strongly support the motion, and I hope the recommendations that you are going to make are not just going to die, just like so many other things that we have been able to prosecute, and they have never seen the light of the day. So these recommendations that we are going to make, Honorable Speaker, I would request the leadership of this House and the entire House to make sure that we implement what we agree, and I'm very sure as a House, as a Senate, we are going to be the symbol of unity for this country. I support.
Senator Kajwang.
Mr. Speaker, I rise to support this motion and to congratulate the Leader of Majority and Leader of Minority for bringing a bipartisan motion of this nature. Indeed, this is the right time to discuss the state of the nation. Mr. Speaker, let me first start by sending my condolences and the delegation that I lead to the 39 families whose children died in the last 1 week. The Kenya National Commission on Human Rights has told us that 36 were injured, 627 young people were arrested, and 32 have disappeared. Mr. Speaker, disappearances and extrajudicial killings have returned to this country, despite the promises that were made during the campaigns. I also wish to sympathize with the traders who have lost their property across the nation. Mr. Speaker, even though not related, allow me to take this opportunity to send my condolences also to the family of the late Joe Barage Wanjui. Those who know Joe Wanjui, he was a chancellor at the University of Nairobi. He is a foremost businessman in this country. And I send condolences because, Mr. Speaker, Joe Wanjui gave me an opportunity to join the financial services world. When I left the university, he never cared about my last name. He cared about my ability to serve. And Mr. Speaker, may his soul rest in peace, and we shall remember his sophisticated humility, which I have struggled to emulate. Mr. Speaker, last week when I was in church, the young people told me when I come to this house, I must read out Ephesians chapter 6, verse 12. For we fight not against flesh and blood, but against principalities and powers. The Gen Zs are not fighting against flesh and blood. Theirs is a fight against principalities and powers, rulers of darkness and wickedness in high places. Gen Zs don't want to kill anybody, even though we are killing them. We have snipers in this building to kill our young people. They are not fighting flesh and blood, Mr. Speaker. It is about wickedness in high places, parliament, state house, city hall, governors' premises across the nation. It is wickedness in high places that the Gen Zs are fighting against. It was not even the finance bill, Mr. Speaker, that was the problem. The finance bill was a catalyst. All this started when we decided to force on Kenyans a housing law. In fact, it's a good thing that those young people came to Parliament, because we are the ones who passed a housing law and told the young people they can go to hell if they want. We are the ones who passed a health law, which nobody understands today. Mr. Speaker, those people who work for the National Health Insurance Fund, they have no certainty. They don't know whether they have a job. Leave alone a job, they don't even know whether they have a health cover. And yet they work for the National Health Insurance Fund. It was this Parliament that brought about that kind of wickedness, that many of our people today do not have health cover. Today, children in schools do not have health cover, something that we thought would be a constitutional guarantee. It was taken away, and this Parliament kept quiet about it. Mr. Speaker, the Gen Zs are fighting about the neo-colonialism that we are seeing today. When Kenyans are complaining about their government, the first person to respond to us is the American ambassador in PowerPoint presentations, telling us how our elections are free and fair, telling us how our president has been sent from God, and telling us that we are making the right decisions, that we should persevere. Gen Zs are tired of that neo-colonialism and double standards. Someone told to me that if those protests were about the rights of persons of the LGBTQ community, Mr. Speaker, and 39 people were dead, the Western world would have frozen aid, they would have frozen external assistance to Kenya. Are the lives of gays and lesbians more important than the lives of the 39 that we have talked about? We saw what happened in our neighboring country, Uganda. They came up with laws that limited the rights and freedoms of persons of that orientation. And Uganda has now been denied funding. The Speaker of the Assembly in Uganda is being hounded out of office. She cannot even travel, Mr. Speaker. We do not want the double standards of neo-colonialists, and we pray that the Gen Zs in America will do the right thing. Mr. Speaker, the arrogance that we have displayed as a leadership, the tribalism that we have been expressing and calling it shareholding. Shareholding is nothing when it comes to national politics. It is pure tribalism. It is ethnic jingoism. It is ethnic chauvinism. Mr. Speaker, we are talking here with Senator Omtata, asking ourselves, why do you need a voter's card when you already have a national ID? And that has been the system in this country, to disenfranchise certain parts of this country. We have been around through electoral processes, and we know that the registration of voters is a first step for rigging of elections. Mr. Speaker, I want to ask the majority and minority leaders that in that motion, that we should push to ensure that in this country, once you have a national ID card, then you can automatically become a voter. Because I've heard the arrogant politicians, those who voted yes to the finance bill last week, saying that Gen Zs will not take them anywhere because, after all, they are not registered as voters. Once you are a citizen, you've got a right to vote. And we should not introduce additional bureaucracies in the name of registration of voters. The last time we did that exercise, this country spent 7 billion Kenya shillings on biometric voter registration equipment. Those are the areas where we could make savings. If we could take that 7 billion that I am sure that the IBC is going to ask for another round of voter registration, that amount of money can take care of the doctors, can take care of the junior secondary school teachers. Mr. Speaker, we have annoyed the Gen Zs by our fake religious fervor. The religious fundamentalism that is in this country, Mr. Speaker, where we go to churches, and then we say that the persons we vanquished are children of a lesser God, that the victors are the ones who pray to the true God. Today, Gen Zs have told us that the voice of the youth is a voice of God. Mr. Speaker, I've reflected and I've looked at what Wole Soyinka wrote. I think it was Soyinka who wrote The Trouble with Nigeria. And Soyinka said, it was Chinua Achebe. It was Achebe who did the trouble in Nigeria. He said, there is no problem with the Nigerian land, the Nigerian soil, the Nigerian air, the Nigerian water, the Nigerian seas and lakes. The trouble with Nigeria, as is the trouble with Kenya, is the failure of leadership. It is a cult of mediocrity. It is indiscipline and it is corruption. Mr. Speaker, ever since Achebe made those very, very interesting remarks more than 20, 30 years ago, Kenya has not learned a lesson. I am so happy about this revolution that our young people have brought upon us, because it is going to change the architecture of our politics. Before, the people who mattered were the leaders and owners of parties. Today, the true bosses are the youngsters, the Gen Zs, our brothers and sisters, our sons and daughters. Mr. Speaker, I heard the president say that he wants to set up certain committees to go around the country to find out what the youth want. But why do you ask for a job when you don't know what the people who elected you want, Mr. Speaker? And sometimes we can propose a lot of things, and yet the solutions lie here in this Constitution. We have a chapter or an article, Article 55 of the Constitution, which talks about specific application of rights with respect to youth. And so instead of the president wasting taxpayers' money with another BBI like circus, I invite the president to read Article 55. That says the state shall take measures, including affirmative action programs, to ensure that the youth access relevant education and training, have opportunities to associate, be represented, and to participate in political, social, economic, and other spheres of life, that the youth can access employment, and that they are protected from harmful cultural practices, because the framers of our Constitution already put it there. What do the Gen Z want, Mr. Speaker? The Gen Z wants us to be faithful to this Constitution, especially the Bill of Rights, the rights and fundamental freedoms in this Constitution, which belong to each individual and are not granted by the state. And the responsibility of the state, as far as the rights are concerned, is to observe, to respect, protect, promote, and to fulfill the realization of those rights. Why do you have to set up committees and dialogue teams? And yet, in the Constitution, it says every Kenyan has got a right to life. That right to life is not abortion. Those boys who are felled by snipers outside this parliament, we have violated their right to life. The young people want equality and freedom from discrimination. That is an obligation of the state in this Constitution. It should not matter whether you are Cheriot, whether you are karaoke, for you to access jobs. The other day, I'm watching on TV as leadership of KEFI